1986, we got Top Gun, a Tony Scott directed film, an action movie about, fighter pilots, starring Tom Cruise. It got mixed reviews and made an absolutely gargantuan amount of money at the box office for Paramount and is considered a classic to this day. It's got some cheesy lines, some corny dialogue, some really good acting, and, a pretty decent script. So now, because everything is a remake, a reboot in 2022, 36 years later, we're getting a sequel that, honestly, it didn't seem like we really needed. And what could possibly go wrong? Turns out, not a whole lot, because this movie fucking rules. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. So it's been a weird couple years. We got marketing for Top Gun Maverick a couple years ago, and then everything was delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, several years later, we're finally getting the long-awaited sequel, which kind of languished in development hell for a while, following Tony Scott's untimely death about a decade ago. And yeah, this movie's way better than it has any right to be. Way better than it has any right to be. I didn't really ever think that a Top Gun sequel would be one of my most anticipated films of any year, and yet here we are. The script is good. I'm not going to say it's amazing. There are a couple missed opportunities with character beats and some of the development of some of the side characters. But overall, it's a good script. It's not complete garbage. It's not incredible. It's not going to win any Oscars, but it's good. It's a rock solid foundation to which to build this type of movie. And it's hard to do nostalgia. It's hard to get that aspect of a film right. Do you have too many callbacks to the original? Do you have too many references? Do you bring back too many characters? Do you name drop too many? And this movie does a lot of callbacks to the originals. It really does. There's dialogue that's cribbed from the original films, maybe one or two many times. And there's just a lot of references to the original Top Gun. And it comes a little bit close to overdoing it, but never quite goes over the line. So I don't have any issues with any of that stuff. The performances here are all really good. Jennifer Connelly as Penny, who's like the love interest. She's great. Miles Teller as Rooster, who's Goose's son. And this review will be completely spoiler-free. I think part of the fun of this movie is knowing how the story progresses, so I won't spoil any of that. And, all of those side characters are great, but ultimately this is Tom Cruise's movie. This is his baby. You can tell he's involved in production of it, and you can tell he really loves the character of Pete Mitchell. And Maverick in this movie is kind of awesome. Cruise doesn't really pick a lot of bad projects, with the exception of the absolutely garbage Mummy reboot that we got a couple years ago, which was like a complete catastrophe across the board. He really does pick good projects. He's been obviously like balls deep in the Mission Impossible franchise for basically ever. Since the original came out in the 90s. It's probably the longest running series of, it's definitely the longest running series of films that have been consistently in production. And the flight sequences are amazing. It's got just the right amount of humor, and he just doesn't pick bad films. He doesn't pick bad projects. So you got to give the guy credit for that. And this is ultimately his movie. And this movie really succeeds or fails not just on those amazing, flight sequences and the effects and all that stuff, which is just world class. And we haven't ever seen anything like this before in a major movie. The aerial stunts, the things they do with these fighter jets is really remarkable and amazing. And it just cranks up everything from the original movie. And I don't know how much of it's practical, but it looks like all of it is. Clearly there's going to be some CG in there, but the movie looks fantastic. But it's really going to rest on its relationships with the characters. I had to talk about that a lot in my reviews. And and Maverick's relationship with Penny, and ultimately his relationship with Rooster, is what drives the film. And without any of that clicking and working the entire time, the movie would be a failure. It really would. And you got to give credit to the screenwriters, Aaron Kruger and Christopher McQuarrie. And there's a third person that wrote the script, whose name I don't remember. But you got to give them credit for getting the story right here, all these years later, and really nailing the emotional beats of the movie. And the last 30 minutes of this film are bonkers. The last 30 minutes of this movie are some of the coolest things I've ever seen put on a screen. Really, they really are. And they did an outstanding job with this film. I was really impressed. And this is a crowd pleaser. It's one of the most anticipated movies for me of this year somehow, which is crazy to even say. A Top Gun sequel, almost 4 decades later. And I have some friends and people I know and coworkers that have a feverish obsession with the original Top Gun. And if you really do love the original Top Gun, I don't know how you don't love this film. I don't know how you don't adore it, because it really gets a lot of things right. It does very little wrong, and it's basically the perfect summer blockbuster. Does that mean it's the perfect movie? Does that mean it doesn't have flaws? No, it doesn't. But this movie is great. It even it has the exact same introduction as the first movie with the Paramount logo and the text on the screen. It's like the exact same text on the screen about the Top Gun program, and it's got the introduction with them launching the aircraft off the aircraft carriers, and it just gets everything right from a delayed sequel standpoint. It really does touch on all the right things. So last 30 minutes are amazing. I love the movie. I can't stop thinking about it, which is a really good thing after I walk out of a theater, that it really sticks with me and I want to see it again. And I can't stop thinking about some of these amazing set pieces and things they did with the film. And I love it. I won't spoil anything, but if you like movies and you like being entertained at the movies, this is the summer blockbuster of 2022. It really is. And you should check it out. I love it. And I think you will too. And if you love the original Top Gun, this is a movie that they really made for you. So you should really be impressed with it. Thank you so much for checking out the video. If you liked it, if you found it helpful, consider subscribing. You'd also like and share it. That tells the powers that be that it's worth promoting. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Did you like Top Gun Maverick as much as I did? Let me know, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.